good morning. How is everybody doing? Um, Lots to talk about, but I think probably the most important conversation is, are you okay? Lots of craziness has gone on in the last 7 days. I know Gwinnett County is under like a severe moment right now because winds are shifting and the chemical plant fire is now moving itself towards Gwinnett County, and there's a fear, concern of breathing air, bad air. So I think we need to just start with a moment of just, are you okay? We are here to help. KW Cares is our 501c3 charity that Keller Williams provides, and they've got your back. Meaning, if you a basement flooded, or you lost power, or a tree fell on your house, please don't take this moment of pride or humbleness. Like, allow people to help you. We're here to help. Anything you guys want to add? I know we've been trying to reach out to all our agents and make sure everybody's okay. And I don't want to say blessed, but I think we didn't get the brunt of the bad storm. I've got friends in North Carolina that like their whole towns are gone, right? Like, so I don't want to minimize us, but also say I feel like we weathered the storm a little bit. Anything y'all want to add to that?
No, I'm just grateful that we haven't had anyone hurt, even though we've had some agents with some property damage and floods and things like that, minor floods. No one's been hurt that I know of, so I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah. Same here. And Manny, thank you so much for putting the KW Cares application emergency disaster. What I would say about that is it's not like your normal KW Cares process. It works much, much faster in a disaster situation. So please reach out if you need it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I wanted to start the call off with, before we jumped into the numbers, we had an industry icon in Atlanta pass away. And, the thing about Jenny Pruitt, a lot of you probably knew Jenny or had relationships with Jenny. She shaped the real estate industry in Atlanta, for sure. She was a pioneer early on. And ultimately, I think her companies merged to what is now Sotheby's today. But she did pass away, and I thought it was worthy of a mention that somebody that shaped the career in Atlanta of being a real estate professional is certainly somebody I admire and respect. Anything y'all would add to that?
She was just certainly an icon in our industry. And so I think a lot of us have been shaped and molded behind Jenny Pruitt. So definitely a trailblazer and definitely an icon in our Atlanta market for sure.
Yeah, and she really helped raise the level of professionalism among real estate agents in Atlanta. When she started this business, and long, long time ago, it was a very different world, and it was kind of the Wild West, and she really brought an air of professionalism that I've always appreciated.
100%. And we, of course, we're competitors, and sometimes we get really competitive, and it's us versus them. But at the end of the day, I think the real estate profession is a family, and we would be naive not to throw big respect to not only our agents and the people that we choose to do business with, that choose to do business with us, but all our competitors, right? So I think it was worthy of starting our call off with. All right, Fulton County. Whoa, active listings went from 1,036 down to 820. Is that to be a shock, or do you think it's temporary? What do you think?
Most real estate listings come online on Thursday and Friday, and with the hurricane storm happening, I think a lot of people just said, you know what, we're going to hold off till next week to list. So I'm not
Yep.
surprised by that at all. You, Toya?
Yeah.
No, not at all. And I was going to say, even if you look at the insurance companies, I mean, everything was put on hold. So I think we pivoted, and I think we're seeing that in the numbers. So I'm not shocked to see that.
100%. Well, we should talk real quick about that. So, storm blows through town. I know most agents understand. Give me a 30-second, 60-second. What do we need to know about selling real estate when a storm blows through town?
I don't think that, I think that we had to pivot. However, I don't think that we're seeing any big margins with it. When I was looking and trying to research a lot of information just to see what's the long-term effect, I think we'll see some things in terms of course, just rebuild. But in terms of interest rates, I know we'll get into those numbers. There's not going to be a whole lot of changes, I don't think, in that part. I do want to talk about something that will impact us possibly a little bit later on interest rates, but I just don't think that we're going to see a whole lot from that. Mark, do you have a different opinion?
Yeah, no, I think for me, like the what happened in the past week with that is insurance companies just kind of stopped, right? They just stopped issuing policies. If you hadn't already been bound prior to Wednesday of last week, insurance companies said, you know what? We're holding off taking on any new properties until after this storm is over and we can confirm that those properties are in good shape before we take on that risk. So I think, and I don't blame them for not wanting to insure someone the day before their property may get flooded and or destroyed.
100%. But it could be an annoying factor in the sense of if your client didn't get their insurance bound right early and they were going to do it right before closing, it could delay a closing. And all that to say, it kind of circles us back to this conversation is I'm not shocked that we're 200 new active listings hitting the market down. If you think about that in terms of number of days, business didn't happen probably for 2-3 days there.
Right. And just one
people
quick
went
note on that, Brett,
home.
too, if I can. The lack of insurance, a lender requires that hazard insurance be in place before they will close a loan. So anyone that's in that boat where they have a loan that's being held up, that is a reason that you can use the unilateral extension, the 8-day unilateral extension in the contract. So I just want to throw that out there.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. All right, 117 still went under contract in the last 7 days, which if you think about that, I'm excited about that number because it talks to our whole point of we're riding this wave of momentum of the declining interest rate environment going into fourth quarter. But you probably think 2 or 3 days people weren't finding houses or they were distracted by the storm. So it probably would have been much higher than that, right? 246 are pending, 220 closed out. We're still waiting. I think the big withdrawal expired numbers are going to pop tomorrow or today. So next week will probably be a much higher number. Just running through DeKalb County, not as drastic, but certainly down on new active inventory. 75 still went under contract, which is extremely healthy for this time of year. I think it probably could have been 90 had the storm not rolled through. 162 are pending and 140 closed out last week. With today being the end of the month, I expect a lot of closings today. It's going to get split across the 2 weeks. So we'll look at it that way. And then Cobb County, not as drastic of a dip in at new active listings coming to market, 80 active under contract. These are summer numbers, guys. And I'll say it probably 100 times. There is a momentum wave going into this fourth quarter that you need to be in tune with and riding. And 148 pending, and then obviously 127 closed out. Same comment on expired withdrawals. Any general comments around numbers?
Nope.
Cool.
Not just pretty expected.
Yeah.
Pretty expected. All right. I thought this was an interesting article, and obviously hurricane came through, winds and rain and historic things. But what I really wanted to position in this article is, does your database view you as a resource for all things real estate? A roofer, a water repair company, a tree trimmer, a lumber guy. I mean, all those things that we typically plan on. But what I see most agents doing is when they have a need, then they go on social media and go, "Hey, who's got a good plumber? Who's got a good roofer?" But right now, everybody needs a roofer. And I just think it's a law. Remember, it's the lost art of selling real estate.
Right.
Having an incredible vendor list is a part of being relational with your database. What would y'all say?
I think if you can be proactive in creating your vendor list, put all the different categories that you might possibly be asked about with different home services. And if you don't have a roofer, reach out to, ask for recommendations, but then reach out and say, hey, this is Mark from KW in town. I need a roofer for my clients, and you were recommended by, X, Y, and Z. And I wanted to see if we could spend, 5 or 10 minutes on the phone just so I can learn a little bit about your company and see if it might be a good fit for someone for me to, to refer my clients, so that you can start building those relationships, because those people are also potential referrals. And instead of just sending them, sending their name and number out, make sure they know who you are as well.
I would
There you
agree.
go.
And I think this is a great time still, even today, to be able to touch our database. So this to me just looks at a touch. And if you don't have the resources that you may say, hey, I don't have those, the Market Center does. So we typically have a vendor list that will have most of what you need. And so tap into that as well.
Absolutely.
I just think it's relational versus reactive, right?
Yeah.
Being
And if you didn't
proactive.
do care calls last week to your clients, it's time for a care / do you need a resource call.
Yep.
There you go. All right. So this article talks about 16 incentives that may help sellers move their homes this fall. So I promise you, most big listing agents have inventory that's been sitting. I talked to an agent in West Cobb the other day that was like, man, I had to go buy 20 new lock boxes the other day. I haven't had to have this amount of lock boxes ever. And well, what's the message behind that is houses are sitting longer than they have in the past. And agents sometimes are really good
Hunting down the next listing. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Agents are really good about hunting down the next listing, but sometimes forget to actually sell the ones they have. And this list, I'm not going to hit all 16 points. You can get this article in Circle and just kind of go through checking it off. But everything from pre-inspections to mortgage rate buy downs, prepaying fees, upgrades, the whole. You can go to Inman Connect too. There's a bunch of just incentives that you could offer to help move the inventory as we're going into fall, because the momentum is up for buyers right now.
Right.
But how do you reposition a listing that's been sitting for a while, right?
One of the things that we've been doing, Brett, is we've been talking a lot. And if you look at the builders, I think that they do the best job in terms of what the incentives are. And so really kind of following that, like with 2-1 buy downs. So we're talking about interest rates. How do we get that 5% interest rate for the, long haul of the loan? I think there are some things, but I think that there are, other things that we need to think about in terms of what can we offer in order to bring those buyers and make them buyers today.
There you go. All right. What do we think of this? So this article says business is largely continued as usual, with 63% of agents reporting that sellers are frequently covering buyer broker commissions, according to the new Real Brokerage survey of 300 agents. The NAR settlement started with emotional concern and fear, yet we were always going to find a new normal. We didn't know what the new normal was going to be, but I find this quite encouraging. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised because it's not 2021. We are in a less of a crazy seller's market and entering more of a balanced time. So I'm not surprised because agents that are skilled in these conversations are making sure that the seller understands that it's in their best interest to get as many people through the door as possible, and they don't want to eliminate buyers who are limited on funds that could otherwise buy their home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's saying 63% agents or home sellers are frequently covering buyer broker commissions. Another 21% said home sellers showed occasional willingness to cover buyer broker compensation, while 12% said they couldn't identify emerging trends among their clients. Okay, whatever. And if you've taken value squared or you intend to take value squared in the future, this is a big part of that conversation. How is the conversation with the seller around how they're going to influence demand outside of price to get people to buy their house? And wrong if they say, I don't want to offer. And they're not wrong if they say no, and they're not wrong if they say yes. It's literally part of the conversation around negotiating, and we go deep into this inside of Value Squared. But I just thought it was an encouraging statement to see that it's pretty much business as usual with some few changes, right?
And I would just add, Brett, even we were just talking about seller incentives. If they're not offering, even if they say I'll do 2% or maybe 1%, maybe this is a time to go back to say, hey, we're still sitting. Do you want to reconsider offering a higher compensation for that buyer?
Yeah. Okay, we got a question. Susan.
I was just going to speak to that and say, I've got a seller who, we had the education talk and I laid everything out as far as here's why I recommend you cover the buyer's broker compensation. Seller was reluctant, thinking that in this new quote unquote new time that, that they wouldn't have to do that, and said, well, let's leave it negotiable. So I won't advertise one or say I'm covering, but let's see what they ask for in the offer. We got an offer right away, over ask, super strong. They're through underwriting. Everything's great. But they asked for full compensation. And my seller said no and came back with just a little bit, and they walked.
Yeah.
And
it's a good story to tell, Susan.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a super strong offer and the best one we'll see, but nope, compensation killed the deal.
Yeah. And it's unlocked the settlement has unlocked the assumed buyer brokerage commission, and it's turned it into 100% a negotiated point. And our skill sets around helping sellers see the light are going to continue to grow. I think that's a big part of what we're learning and what we're moving towards. One of the things that I've got on my agenda for 2025 is to bring some negotiation classes to the heart of Atlanta. We all say we're great negotiators, but I'm not sure we've ever really taken classes, and I'm not sure we've ever really read a book. We self-proclaim, and I want to make sure we're polishing up on our negotiation skills. So
hello,
for sure. Hello, Mark. I'm going to mute you, or somebody's going to mute you.
hello.
Okay.
That's
Can
not
somebody
Mark.
mute Mark?
That's not Mark.
I know. Oh, come on. There we go. Thank you, Stephen. All right. Last article, and then I know, Toya, you said you had something. So before I get into this article, ask yourself the question, how much money did you pay for your first home? I think my very first home, I might have paid like $170,000 for, which I thought was high at the time. Of course, if I asked my parents, it was probably 20,000 or 30,000 in their day and age. Yet, we understand the price of first-time home buying has gone way up. This article hit me with a little bit of a shock factor. It's talking about a typical single-family home in Atlanta may cost you $500,000. And what they're really talking about is new construction. Well, they're saying affordable homes for the first-time home buyers are becoming increasingly hard to come by across core metro Atlanta communities. But then they go in here to say, in an interview, Jones said that sales activity is higher for homes priced above $500,000 compared to those priced beneath the $500,000 threshold. So she's saying the market is segmented, meaning there's more activity above $500,000 than there is below $500,000. And it's really crazy because while ramping up new construction has proven effective at reducing the local housing shortage, doing so has been challenging and more expensive for home builders in the last few years. The cost of erecting new homes has remained high since the start of the pandemic, which prompted labor shortages and rise in building material prices. And this guy, Paul, regional president for the National Home Builder Empire Community, said during a Chronicle housing panel earlier this year, it's hardly profitable to build and sell homes priced below 500,000. So the builders can't build something that's not at least 500,000 and turn a profit. So what that means is we've got a segment of our customer base, which is first-time home buyers, which have been basically priced out of the market over the last couple of years from the hyper abundant market where they're having to pay cash over asking price. So they just pulled out of the market. And now when they're trying to reemerge the market, they're struggling to find something they can afford under $500,000. And I find it interesting because the median sales price in Atlanta is still in the 400 range. Yet new construction, they can't put inventory on the ground to help under $500,000. What do y'all think of that?
Yeah, I mean, the costs have gone up, like hard costs have gone up over the past couple of years, starting in the pandemic with supply chain issues. And very few people have, or suppliers have reduced their prices now that that supply shortage is gone. So the inflation has driven costs up, hard costs, and then soft costs like financing and insurance and labor. Those have all gone up as well. So it makes sense. And the land prices have gone up, right? So it makes sense that all of these things combined have made it harder for builders to find properties where they can produce a product and turn a profit for less than 500,000.
It's crazy.
The other thing is, I was just, while you were pulling that up, interest rates right now are 6.2, which last week they were at 6.15%. And what I would say to all of this is, I think that we are going to see, you talked about the mortgage rates and the Fed cutting. I do think we're going to see interest rates on the mortgage side coming down, not because of the Fed costs, but because of some other things that are happening. One is affordability. And so that leads to, I don't know if you all are familiar with multi-generational living. So I do think we'll start seeing a trend, a peak in that, because people cannot afford to live by themselves. But the other thing that's impacting us today that I also think that's happening right now is that the port strike that is happening within 24 hours. If we see that happen, we are going to see, much like we saw in the port pandemic, where we can't get supplies on a lot of different things. So we may see possible inflation go up. But my hope is, with all of those things taking place, we'll see these interest rates come down. And what you and I both know is that with the lower interest rates, it can help with affordability.
It can. I just wanted to do a quick thing here. So I'm in a hotel and my Wi-Fi is horrible. So forgive the slowness here, but Come on. Doesn't want to work. But I was just sitting there thinking, okay, let's say you bought your first time home for $500,000. You put 5% down and you finance $475,000. That payment is sticker shock to me for a first time home buyer. So obviously generational living, what do they call them? Nepo buyers, where the parents are having to help pay money to get people into their first home. All those things are becoming more and more. And if you think about Europe, generational living is very common in Europe. People live in their house until they have multiple floors, and the kids are on the top, and over time they make their way down, right? But it's just I don't know that this is good news today, but it's certainly a conversation around, hey, we're going to have to figure this out, and otherwise you're going to have a generation that just doesn't own homes, and that's not okay.
Right.
And
right.
Brett, what I would add to that is a lot of builders are trying to figure that out. You can actually find that's actually happening in the city of Atlanta right now, where builders and developers are trying to figure out what does multi-generational living look like, so that people can have their own privacy, yet you may be taking care of an aging parent, or it may be, that young adult that's coming back in. So I think those are all factors.
100%. All right. What did we not cover? You got 3 minutes. Is there a talking point you wanted to share today we didn't cover?
I think we hit everything. I would just use this time wisely in terms of, if you haven't, touched your database, check in on them to see how they're doing and to see what resources you can be, so you can be that go-to person. We still have a moment in the market where we can seize that opportunity.
What's that script look like? You call me, what do you say? You're my agent, or I'm in your database. What do you say to me?
Hey, Brett, this is Toya with KW. I was going through my database, and, I've had to pivot in these last couple of days to the storm. I just wanted to make sure that you and your family were okay. And do you need anything? Did you all have any type of damage? I certainly have a lot of vendors that I work with. And if you need anything, let me know. And if you find that you have a neighbor that needs something, please don't hesitate to call me.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we had some shingles blow off.
You know what? I've got a roofer. I can certainly give you some people that we like and love and trust, and hopefully they can help you. Let me give you that information.
Perfect. And remember to call me on anything real estate related. I've got a great vetted vendor list that I'd be happy to connect you with on anything.
Absolutely.
Brett, real quick,
I think it's an easy soft call, right? Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say the other thing you can be talking to people about is refinancing, because anyone that bought in the past year and a half or almost 2 years is in a higher interest rate. So as interest rates are going down, it's probably time to start connecting those buyers with lenders to see if their lender is offering a no bank fee refinance, which most lenders have been doing in the past 2 years. And then also, I know one of the closing attorneys we work with is offering a low cost $525 closing for refinances for a limited period of time. So there are opportunities to refinance if they bought at a higher rate. So now is a good time to be making those touches as well.
And I love that, Mark. We just had that conversation. I think a lot of the lenders are starting to do that now, where there's no out-of-pocket costs for them. So this is a great time to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Sure. Rock and roll, guys. Last thing, seriously, if somebody's in need in our family, we want to know. This is not a time to be humble. And most people don't raise their hand when they need help. So if you know somebody in need, raise their hand for them. We want to help. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.